Good afternoon, viewers. We are live again from Sakra World Hospital. Today is 24th June and it's seen in India and worldwide as International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. To talk about the same subject, I have one of the distinguished and renowned psychiatrists with me, Dr. Naveen Jairam. Welcome to this session, sir.
Thank you, Kaushik.
Well, so the theme for this year is Sheer Facts on Drugs and Save Lives. So he's going to talk about that, and he's also going to talk that how an individual who is actually suffering from a drug abuse can come out of it and have a healthy life. Welcome to this session, sir.
Thank you.
But before we start, if you could just set the context right for everybody to understand that what are the different aspects we're going to talk about today.
Yes. I think we are going to talk about today is an important day. This is the day which is celebrated as International Drug Abuse Day or National Drug Day, International Drug Day. So basically here, they want to highlight about the drug usage, the seizure of the drugs from the police, or the amount of drug use consumption, and at the same time they want to also give the facts. So the theme itself is to give the facts about drugs. What do you want to know? What are the different kinds of drugs people use? How will they get used to it? And how what impact it causes on their life, and what happens to their family members, and how to overcome, basically how to understand whether you are addicted or you are just using it for the sake of using it, and these kind of techniques. And also we can tell them when to reach out for help when there is necessity of rehabilitation, and also once you stop the drug, what you can do so that you can maintain this abstinence for a very long time. I think we all understand that it's a huge burden. So today I think in the newspaper there was a seizure of drugs, and apparently there was 83 crore kgs of ganja has been seized in Karnataka itself. 83 crore kilos of ganja. So this is just imagine, this is the amount police has found. So might be 10-20% of the seizure. This is over the years. They're going to destroy it today because of this occasion, but that's how it is. So it's a huge thing which is happening.
Right, just understanding the economics of it. So while there is so much of supply, that also actually translates that there is a huge demand in the market.
Absolutely. If there is a huge demand, and then that is how you get to a lot of seizures also. That means consumption will be higher.
Way higher.
Way higher. Especially in Bangalore and in these surrounding areas, it's huge.
Well, that brings me to my first question for the session. Which are these most common drugs? You spoke about marijuana. What are the other drugs?
Yeah, marijuana might be most commonly used. Before that, I think it is alcohol. Alcohol is commonly available, and that is most commonly used.
And you want to classify that under drugs?
Of course, alcohol can be considered as a drug because there is a chance of addiction potential, right? So that can be called as a drug, and it is a drug. Tobacco is a drug. Tobacco or smoking is definitely a drug. And we have other drugs like ecstasy, methamphetamine, LSD, some kind of drugs like magic mushrooms, cocaine and heroin. So all these are also hardcore drugs, what we call. I think there are many people who would experiment with many things, but there are a subset of people who would definitely get used to these kind of substances.
But see, everybody understands it's very harmful. It can cause damage to health and to the family and society. However, what are the different reasons, irrespective of knowing the harmful effects, they still go and try these drugs?
See, most of the time, I think we understand the use of drugs due to certain characteristic or personality of the person. What happens is there are some people who are we call them as externalizing traits. They're novelty seekers. They want to get that adrenaline rush. Either it could be in terms of going driving speed or jumping or doing certain kind of things. Very adrenaline rush they require. So these are the people who would jump into using the drug. They will have a brain which is very hyper functioning. That means you cannot pause it, you cannot slow it down. The moment they start taking the drug, they feel very normal, very normalized. They can understand things, they can understand everything, and it makes them behave like calm. Normal. So that is what many people, I think, when they take the drug, they come and tell us, I feel normal when I'm taking this particular drug. So it is true that their brain is very hyperfunctional. They will have some kind of externalizing traits, and the moment they take the drug, they feel little better. This is one category of people. So since they feel better, they will continue to take it. I'll take it once again. I'll take it once again. So it goes on like that. And before they realize, they'll be already addicted to it. means without that I can't get back to normalcy. Okay, we talk about this high and all, but that high phases will happen only in the initial days. After some time, you're just taking it just to feel normal. Forget about the high, forget about high functioning. Just you have to feel normal, you have to take the drug. When it comes to another set of people, I think there are many people who would face stress, would face anxiety, would face a lot of troubles in terms of family, in terms of work, in terms of financial things and all those things. So sometimes people take these drugs like self-medication. For example, I have sleep problem. If I take alcohol, I will get good sleep. I have a work where my body gets tired, I feel exhausted. If I take something, I'll feel calm, I'll feel tired. Or I have to do a presentation. If I take something, I'll become much more energetic and I'll be able to handle people.
I won't be sleeping tonight.
I won't be, So there are many, these are some people who would take it as a negative reinforcement because they have these problems and they don't know how to cope up with that and they use substances. So again, it will make these symptoms normalized as long as they are taking the drug. The moment the drug is off, again they will get back to the same cycle. So having said that, what happens is that brain is very, very powerful. The moment they go on taking the substance, there will be changes happening in the brain. Initially, there will be mild changes, and as the duration continues, it becomes a chronic change, right? That change will make them feel addicted. Addicted means what? They have to use more substances. Initially, they were taking some quantity, but now that quantity doesn't work. You need to go higher. That is called tolerance. Sometimes, people will spend every moment in a day just to consume how I can get the drug, how I can take it. So that is like too much of thinking or obsessive thinking about the drug. Then there is craving, an intense desire to take the substance. Okay, and sometimes they lose control also. Control means like under the influence of substance, they might black out, they might end up committing crimes, or there might be an accident, or there might be violence, or there are a lot of behavioral problems which also comes because of consumption of the drug. So the main thing what we are talking about is the changes in the brain. And for some people, it is very soon. Some people, it might take some time. And when we are combining many substances at the same time, for example, somebody is taking marijuana and also drinking alcohol, also taking some meth, so multiple hard drugs will affect the brain very, very fast. Also, earlier age you expose, probably the teenage or 18, before your brain is mature, if you expose, the consequences are pretty high.
Right. You spoke a little bit about the brain, but then my next question is going to be a little elaborate on that front. So how does it affect the brain and the body if I talk both?
Yes. So substances, as I told you, there will be neuroadaptation. As we go on taking it, it forms a neural pathway in the brain. Slowly it start affecting their concentration, it will start affecting their thinking capacity, judgment, and performance in work, everything it will start affecting. So even they take the drug, they will not be able to. Let me give an example. Let us say somebody is taking alcohol to get sleep. Initially, some amount of alcohol will help them to sleep better. Gradually what happens, even the person takes one full bottle of alcohol, after 1 hour he will wake up. After 1 hour, he will not be. That is because of the brain's adaptation. Okay, so it will give you a reverse effect after some time. You will not be able to peacefully be like how you were earlier. Right? There are many people who might consume a large amount, but sleep will be disturbed. That is when the associated areas of the brain are also getting affected. One particular pathway, the reward pathway gets affected, and then associated areas of your, you need coordination of the brain, right? When you understand brain has to coordinate. One simple task, multiple regions should coordinate. So it breaks that association. Then things will start going haywire. Okay. Right. At the same time, when brain gets affected, body will also get affected. You know that many substances like smoking can cause cancer, alcohol can cause anything from head to toe, liver damage, it can cause. All this knowledge people have, they will know it. But once they go into that kind of programming of addiction, they will not bother. These are all simple things. For example, they might have pancreatitis. Yeah, once it becomes alright, they'll be okay. Till it becomes alright, probably they will refrain. But the programming in the brain will remind them. Once they feel pain is off, they'll again immediately jump into taking the substances. So that way, mind plays a huge role.
How much time does it take for an individual to get completely addicted to something like this?
It depends actually. Everybody will not take a particular same time because it depends on the amount of usage and the age of exposure. As I told you, if your mature brain gets exposed, then there is a high chance of getting used to it. Usually for the criteria, we always consider 6 months to 1 year period. continuous use for more than 6 months to 1 year period can be considered as addiction. Of course, some people might develop withdrawal symptoms, tolerance, or whatever I mentioned before 6 months also, depending on the intensity of the use. But generally, we need to at least have a pervasive, enduring pattern of consumption of substances for a period of 6 months to 1 year. Okay.
What does the role of a family play when we are dealing with an individual who's an addict?
Yes, I think most of in our country, it is a stigma. It is a big stigma that if somebody is an addict, I think everybody looks at him like he's doing it for his sake. He's selfish. He's creating problems for everybody. Doesn't understand. Doesn't have common sense. This is how people will start criticizing the person. They do not try to understand that somebody will not just automatically get hooked to a substance. Somebody will not just, because there is something happening in their mind or something happening in their environment which makes them vulnerable, right? There might be genetic components which make a person get addicted to it. Social environment, you are seeing somebody who is using substances every day, or your peer group, you are in a group or a circle. So all those things, there are multiple things which can contribute to substance use. So family members should understand and probably support them. How to support them? Probably, there will be periods where they're not using the drugs. There'll be some periods, rather than criticizing them, rather than putting them down, probably you need to have a good communication and tell them, see, whenever you are ready, I'm ready to help you. Give that option to them that help is available. We can definitely do something about this. Please understand. Rather, many times people jump into this conclusion that, they're doing it for the sake of doing it. They just don't care. But it is not the case. They are suffering.
They are suffering, right?
They are suffering.
Right. What role does the social media or OTT platform plays?
Yes, I think OTT platform and social media has a huge impact on this thing. A lot of discussions happen. Especially I can tell about, you watch any kind of series or any kind of thing, there are many series which are made on drugs only. Okay, we know what kind of crowd are watching it, right? So definitely nowadays currently we have a lot of influence on social media and other things. Wrong information can also be spread very fast. That's what we need to know, the facts. There are a lot of information in the social media about cannabis, marijuana, telling that it has a lot of benefits, but nobody talks about what are the darker side of the marijuana. What happens when everybody might not get affected. I'm talking about some people might not get affected. We have recreational use, and of course, recreational use is very difficult to define. How much is recreational use?
Right,
once a week,
right, yeah.
Once a day, once a month, it is very difficult. But what happens is that these people will know only what facts their mind understands. So it is that it is beneficial. It helps. Many people are using it, and it makes them do this, it makes them do that. So some kind of curiosity, and also it's a sense of self-esteem. Oh, they are using it, actors are using it, this person is using it, and this is good, this is nice. But somewhere in this group, there'll be somebody who will develop a psychosis or a schizophrenia, hallucinations, delusions because of use of weed. There's also a serious condition called amotivation syndrome. That also people can develop, where you're completely just, I had encountered a person who was just smoking weed for a month, not going out of the house, completely away from everybody, 1 month. So family members didn't have any kind of clue. Then it was found out after a month that he was into that amotivation syndrome. Okay, these are all darker side. The numbers might be less, but it happens for sure.
But there is a possibility.
Yes, 100% possibility.
What are the different possible treatments available for these individuals who are suffering?
See, once somebody has used the drug for a very long time, they won't be able to stop it suddenly. And that is another thing which will make them to continue. If I stop, because the moment they stop, there will be physical withdrawal symptoms and there will be psychological withdrawal symptoms. So we call them a psychological dependence also. For example, alcohol withdrawal might cause sweating, might cause tremors, might cause sleep problems, hallucinations and stuff like that. Whereas cannabis or marijuana withdrawal will have a different set of symptoms. Cocaine withdrawal will have a different set of symptoms. So any kind of hard drugs, probably it is always better to reach out for help. Don't try to do it yourself. If you're using heroin, because they have terrible life-threatening withdrawal
consequences,
right? Life-threatening withdrawal symptoms, please reach out to a healthcare facility and immediately get evaluated, right? Alcohol also, sometimes even alcohol withdrawal can complicate and make things worse, like seizure. They can have a seizure, they can have delirium tremens. These are very high mortality kind of conditions. If you are using it for a very long time and have withdrawal symptoms, it is very important that you reach out to the medical facility. What we do something called as detoxification. So initially we will assess their parameters, what is happening. We will supplement those substances with something else so that their brain will suddenly not go into withdrawal state, and we slowly, gradually bring it down and help them. This is the acute phase of the thing, right? So whenever you decide, please reach out for help. That is what we tell people. You need to know. Many people will try to stop it suddenly and they get into trouble, and again they get back, because I tried many times. There is a survey actually, Kaushik, you'll be surprised. 75% of the people who smoke, 75% think every day at least once that I need to quit.
Well, that's true.
So that awareness is definitely there for the
Yes.
people. Some point of time they think. So for all the substances, there will be this awareness, but they don't know where to connect, how to connect.
Well, that's wonderfully explained here. Well, coming to the rehabilitation, you spoke about the help. Some of the individuals also require rehab.
Yes.
Right? Can you throw some light on that?
Yeah. So most of the conditions, probably mild to moderate addictions, we call it as, can be managed in outpatient basis. So with the help of anti-craving agents, detoxification, motivation enhancement. Most important is motivation. The only point which will make them quit the substance is their own motivation. Our job is to enhance that motivation. Wrong things about drugs, everybody knows. So you tell that it causes cancer, nobody bothers about it. You want to quit, why do you want to quit? So the first question we ask them is that particular thing. What are the reasons why you want to quit? The moment they get to know about this kind of understanding that this is the reason, then their motivation will improve. And once they understand that, okay, I'm off drug for a week, that's a good thing. So that's where the role of our therapists and family members will come. So they need continuous support. Some people, because of the long-term use and multiple relapses in the past, might require a rehab care for a little longer time, probably for a month or two, where I think they'll be put into a daily program of yoga, breathing techniques, counseling sessions, and try to understand what made them enter into the drug thing, family situation, so all those things. So that long-term care is required probably for 30 to 40% of people. Another 60% of people we can definitely manage in the outpatient basis and treat them very well.
You just spoke about that once somebody walks into a rehab center, we just don't stop and we try to substitute it with some other drugs, but which doesn't have that harmful effect.
Yes.
People think that, okay, why should I'm switching from one substance to another substance. What would you like to tell them?
Yeah, so this is only a temporary period, because we need to do that, because if we don't do that, there will be complications, right? Withdrawals are horrible. Sometimes heroin withdrawal is very, very difficult. They will have a terrible time. BP might drop and it is horrible. So these medications are not like we are replacing some similar kind of drug, but it acts on the same receptor in the brain, so that the acute withdrawal comes down. We are going to taper and stop that. We are not going to continue this detoxification for a long time. This is only the initial process. Afterwards, long-term medication is required for some people. For example, anti-craving agents, or the agents which help them to quit smoking, agents which help them to quit use of heroin or these things, that will help them assist their brain in order to remain off the substance.
How much time does it take for an individual to come back to his normal life? Say, I'm talking two individuals, one who's into a recreational drug, other individual who's into a hard drug.
Yes.
So time frames differ?
Yes, time frame definitely differs, because the duration of use and the combination of drugs you are using also makes impact on the brain. As I mentioned, right, the brain changes which would have happened will definitely take 6 months to 1 year. Minimum time for the complete neural pathways to change is 6 months to 1 year. If somebody is using a very hardcore drugs and stuff like that, probably a mild use, occasional use, they want to quit, probably they can do it within 1 or 2 months. A new neural pathway will take 6 to 8 weeks. So 1 or 2 months they'll be able to do it. But mostly 6 months to 1 year. The same period which it is required for addiction, the same period, at least 6 months is necessary without substance in order to come back. Okay. What happens is sometimes people think, many people ask me, I don't want to completely stop. I just want to take it in the weekends.
Okay.
When you are used to the substance, that to taking it every day or multiple times, you cannot do that. Your brain will not allow you to take it only in the weekend. It is impossible. Okay, because the moment you take it in the weekend, then the cycle will continue again. So I suggest them, you can try that probably after a few months of time, but now present moment you need to completely go off, because that's a good idea. You completely give a drug-free period, your brain recovers, and also very important thing is here, just not the medication part, your lifestyle also plays a huge role. So you're not going to just put you on some meds and do it. If you do some positive things like exercise, yoga, certain kind of practices, whatever you can do, breathing techniques, all those things will help the brain to recover a little faster. That's what I think in rehab care, this is the main role, no? That there is Alcoholics Anonymous groups. There are a lot of other groups also which will help people to keep in that motivation cycle for a long time. The whole important thing is motivation. How long it will last. And another thing I want to highlight here is that relapse is very common.
And that was my next question, but
Yes.
then please.
I think relapse I tell that the treatment for addiction is a process. Coming out of addiction, for that matter, is a process. It is never a one-point thing. You meet the doctor and one point, I'm completely off. That might happen to 3% population who are very well motivated. But most of the people, it's a chronic relapsing condition. Due to various reasons in workplace, family, or multiple other reasons, there might be a chance of relapse. And family also plays a huge role in relapse maintenance. So sometimes we tell relapse is a rule. So we don't feel very disheartened if somebody relapses because the brain is like that. So you have to fall down many times in order to learn sometimes. Okay, so that happens to some people. But what happens? Family's reaction will be horrible at that point of time. They usually, completely
Vent out all the
went
frustration.
out all the frustration. I spent so much. I kept you in rehab for so many days.
And the money and
Money
time
and
and effort.
Everything goes. And most of the time they will just force them into the rehab, right? They'll take them and put them into the rehab. This guy needs a rehab.
Yeah.
And some people come out after 1 year, after 6 months, and the first thing they do is go back to the drug.
Yeah.
So the whole purpose was, I think one of the person, I asked him, why did you do this? And his only response was, I didn't want to quit at that point of time. I was very clear. I was forcefully put. The moment I was in the rehab, the only thing I thought was, the moment I go out, how much ever time it takes, the first thing I do is I'll take the substance.
Right. After recovery, what steps one individual can take? I mean, proactively and consciously, so that he doesn't become an addict with the same substance again.
Correct. This is a very valid question. So once you are off, that's where the support of everybody comes here. One is self-support. The person can feel better. Wow, this is nice. I'm doing wonderful. I'm able to come out of it. 1 week is over, 2 weeks is over, 2 months, 3 months now. That you can highlight himself. You need to give that motivation. And the practices, as I mentioned, if he's practicing certain things every day, that will also boost his motivation. If he's in a group kind of setup, Alcoholics Anonymous, he can become a part of it. He can help other people that, see, I have quit, I have done it, please do it. That also gives a sense of
So
motivation.
he can become a motivational
He
leader.
can, definitely, that is, I think in AA group, that is the primary thing. Somebody who has quit will definitely motivate others. More than the professional telling, somebody who has experienced it, they come out, they speak about it. They can make a huge difference actually in terms of social media, talking about it openly. It's a stigmatizing thing in our country, but still, if they come up and they start giving these messages that I can quit, everybody can try, it helps. Most of the time, some people refer because they have done it and they have successfully done it. They also suggest other people to do that. So in that sense, that helps. And the second important thing is environment. So our job doesn't end with just treating the addiction. Where the person goes back, that is very, very important. His peer, his friend, probably a circle is using it. You need to avoid that. So you need to change his interactions. Probably family has any kind of issues in the family that needs to be sorted out, financial. So whatever support system we can create. So psychosocial interventions we call, that plays a huge role. So it has to continue even after the person has stopped the things. And we are also, giving an option that any kind of thing happens, please reach back. That is another thing. You need to know where to reach back. We tell sometimes, if in case knowingly, unknowingly relapse happens, please come immediately. Don't wait for a long time, because immediately we can do something. Right? Many people follow that, and that's how it helps.
Well, so thank you so much for your time, sir. And I think we have covered most of the questions which were asked by you guys. And I take a big thank you from sir who could join us for this session. And thank you all for joining us. Till then, thank you so much. We'll join with another informative live session. Thank you.
Thank you.